Hello and good afternoon. Welcome. This is Connections 50 Plus Wednesday. It's Wednesday, so it's Facebook Live. And I'm Terri-Ann Joseph Bradford as usual. Does something look strange? Someone is missing? Yes. I'm here today. Jen is just recovering from a tad little piece of the flu. So we want to make sure that she's all hale and hearty for next week. So she's left me by my all lonesome self, but not exactly. She will also be online with us, joining the conversation from your end. But today, we've got a special treat for you. We have a special topic. Now, for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking to people about preparing for the third act. You would have heard us talk about having candid conversations. And last week, we had that wonderful conversation with Nneka Joseph about her own, how she faced all the dilemmas in terms of preparing for her third act. So today, we're taking the step a little further. We're saying, yes, there's a dilemma and there's a problem, but we think there's solutions. So what better substitute for Jennifer than to be joined by Dr. Nneka Joseph, who is Jennifer's daughter. Nneka is an organizational psychologist.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
And I think, does anyone see Jennifer? All right, Jennifer's just joined us. Okay. So, Nneka, it's so great to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, definitely. And you know, this 50 plus life is really dynamic because we're realizing that we have up to 20, 30 years more to live post the organization.
Correct.
And you know, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and something about you?
Okay, so actually that will help with our conversation today.
Yes.
Because we're talking about defining ourselves and redefining ourselves. So most of us start the conversation with our title. So I'm Dr. Nneka Joseph, right? Then we go into what do you do? So I'm an industrial and organizational psychologist, and I help counsel people with their career choices or transitioning to the next phase. So with that, what do you do when the profession
or whatever you did
or whatever you did or used to do is no longer part of the definition of self?
And that's something that we've been saying, you know, for so many people. You're either somebody's mommy, you're somebody's manager, you're the custodian in this place, you're the tea lady. When that time comes and you're no longer that, I mean, people will be faced with challenges in all types of areas, you know?
Yes. So the first challenge is getting that new definition of self. Who am I without the title of the job or the profession? But there are many other things that come into play with that. You have more time possibly at home. So your relationship with your family now changes. You may have been out the house for 8 hours a day, but there are things that were happening during that 8 hours at your home. So the children were growing up in the meantime, or your spouse has been engaging in things at the home.
You know them in the evening. You don't know them during the day.
Exactly.
You know them early in the morning or in the evening.
So now your relationships start to change. Then you also go through some financial changes because, you know, pension and IS, things like that, would change your lifestyle a little bit. So there's a lot more. So you get the opportunity, however, to redefine who you are, to really decide, okay, what am I going to do with myself?
But Nneka, let's talk about, before we get into that, let's talk about some of the major changes, because one of the things that I would like our viewers to really tune into is you may be able to identify with some of these issues, you know, and I want to go back to that. Let's start with the self and the home. You know, I am no longer X.
Correct.
What kinds of difficulties do you see? And especially if the individual goes into a social setting, you know, I am no longer Mr. X or Miss X.
So some of the challenges is even how do you, as you asked me, so what do you do? So that's the first thing that people are like, well, I'm retired, or I'm home, or I don't know, I'm not sure.
No status.
No status, right? Or you may want to carry on the status even though you don't have the position. So sometimes it's kind of difficult for persons to...
Or if you meet co-workers.
Or meet co-workers,
especially if you
or
were...
direct reports, or anybody that you were working with. That seems to be one of the first things that people face. So really getting themselves reacquainted with who they are in society and the community is where they
because you spent 30 years defining yourself as even for the homemaker. If the children grow and you're no longer mommy or daddy as the provider, but these adults.
Exactly. So your responsibilities in the home change, or the tasks and duties, just like anybody else's jobs, tasks and duties, would then change. So what do you do at this point is usually people's challenge.
Yes. So if we also look at the issue of you going to the social environment, apart from defining myself as Mr. X or Mr. Y, is there a real challenge with people finding a group of friends, not work, but real friends?
Right.
Is that an issue?
I think about it, and most of the persons that I interact with in going through these transitions, they talk about it like when they were in secondary school or university, and you had your core group of friends and you think you're going to be with them forever, and then when you graduate, it's a whole different set. So there may be one or two that will be with you forever, right? You always have that core best friend. But then there are people who the relationship was only there because you were working. Or even when you meet with them again, without work, there isn't much to talk about.
You know, I can identify with that.
So you now have to...
You realize how centered on work our lives, well the job, not work.
Yes, would have been. So now you kind of have to change. Okay, so what do we talk about now? What do I talk about now? What am I doing at this point in time to share with other people?
Especially if you don't understand who you are.
Exactly. So that is the social interaction then becomes the next thing. So you're home, okay, so we're defining ourselves at home, and then we go out in public.
You know, I want to go back. This morning when we were chatting, Nneka said something that I thought was totally hilarious, but it's so true. In the dynamic of, say, whether it's a pair at home or whatever it is, in terms of how you're accustomed to meeting the house in the evening with things done.
Exactly.
Now you're seeing the process and the definition of what is help.
Yes, so we were chatting about and I was seeing it as what a typical situation may possibly be. And so you're at work during the day, and your other, or maybe even your help, whatever is happening in your home is going on, and you come back home and
how did the house get cleaned? How did dinner get
you meet
done?
Dishes cleaned, or you meet laundry done, food ready, and you're not too sure how that process happened, but you know it's done. Now that you're home and you're seeing the process happening, you may be inclined to help, or you may be voluntold to help. And so in helping, it becomes, well, no, I don't do it that way. You're not packing the dishes right. There's so much mess when you cook. So it becomes, a different type of dynamic and relationship with your partner or anybody that's in the home that may have been engaging in these types of activities.
Or children.
Or teenagers.
You don't know they get ready for you to come home in the evening, but you don't know what they
were engaged in prior to you being at home.
Who comes to the house?
Yes, who visits, or even something, it may be simple things like how they study. So they may have the music very loudly, or they may have they watch TV in between and that kind of something. Like, you can't be getting your work done that way, and be like, yeah, why are you home? So you have all of those things to kind of deal with.
Yes.
So it becomes a whole new
challenge.
challenge.
I can share a story when I started after I left the corporate world and I started my business from the house.
Mm-hmm.
My children expected, because I was at home, a level of accessibility that they expected to come in and make demands whenever. And I said, I'm working, and they're looking at me like, you're here. Come. You know, and it could be, I mean, it is something that we have to be prepared for and we have to adjust to. You know, even the way family members, not even the core family, but the other family members would expect parents, siblings, cousins, you know, what they'd expect.
So those expectations also would have to be managed, or it changes.
Mm-hmm.
And you may also be entering into a new role. So you may be entering into the grandparent role. What is that like? Now that you're home, is there an expectation for you to now take over the full childcare duties?
Or cutting expense for someone.
Or cutting expenses for others.
Mm-hmm.
So different things, different dynamics. Do you grandparent the same way you parent? Because it really should be a different relationship.
So you bring the work personality into the grandparenting.
Or that can be a new. So so you may, because you are yearning or not too sure how to make that change from your work environment, you may bring the work personality home, because some of us have our work person and home person. But because we no longer have an outlet for the work person, you start to exhibit those behaviors at home, which can also cause its own friction and challenges.
Okay. And we know that, all right, not everyone will be at home, but people choose different things. They develop new hobbies. They develop micro businesses, small businesses. They open up consultancies and so on. And people will also have to make an adjustment to the persona they carry into that new job. You may have been who you are in an organization with structure is not who you should be in an entrepreneurial venture, or when you're climbing with the ladies or the gentlemen in the group doing a hobby.
Correct. So those things have to be adjusted, and depending on what you have chosen to do or decided to do in your third act, that also impacts on things that happen with your family and home. So you may decide to travel, so that's great, but then how long do you travel? Where do you travel? There may be discussions about who can come with you. Are you traveling by yourself? Are you taking your partner? Are you taking the kids? All those things become something. If you're entering into a new business, then there was expectations of you being home and fulfilling home life, but starting a new business takes on its own life and takes on a lot of your time. Financial commitment. So a lot of communication and discussion and planning needs to be done with your family, with your friends, with everyone involved, so that you know that whatever decision you choose to make for your next 10 years, 20 years, etc., that you do that with this full support, the same way you got the support moving into that second act. So you want that support system, and it becomes even more important for you because you are really getting to you have new definitions, and you yourself have to kind of figure that out, and then explain it to everyone else. So it becomes a challenge for persons. I want to open my new business, and everybody else is like, oh, again, you're going to be gone again.
Because the expectation is when you left work, you'd be home.
Exactly.
Or you would be more available. But then you get into a new project, a new hobby, and you're just as unavailable as you were before.
Correct. Or even more so, depending
on what it is. So, you know, it's one of the things that we're really preparing our audience for is that as we enter the third act, life really is going to be different. And, you know, we've chatted about people having expectations that whether it's your status, whether it's the organization wanting you to come back, whether it is, they just aren't real about the difference, you know, and we're going to get into how we can manage those differences. But, you know, we could probably talk about some of the expectations people have about what that, the first 3 or 4 years.
So currently, I have encountered quite a few persons that have the expectation that the company will bring them back. Typically,
yes, because they're so good.
Yes, but also typically because companies are not doing as much succession planning. I'm getting in a little technical profession, but people are not doing as much succession planning. Yes. So no matter what the role is that you may have been playing in the organization, they didn't foresee or planned enough your departure and the knowledge and experience that you're leaving with to help the person that's replacing you. So they may bring you back. So
people think that
they're coming back.
They're going to be needed.
Yes, they're going to be needed because the person who's supposed to fill their shoes doesn't quite get it or know what to do or know the links that you have, the connections and the network that you have. However, there are instances where the organization may do so, but it's not a long-term second career opportunity.
What do you find people? How long do people think they're going to be kept versus how long they're actually kept?
People would like at least another 2 years, almost to 5 years, depending on how early their retirement is. So their expectations may be somewhere anywhere from 2 to 5 years. And
that the company is going to keep them on.
Yeah, keep them on for different projects or different things, or have them train a new person, or just have them
I guess they plan
continue to work.
For that.
Yes, they just continue to work. In most cases, it's maximum 6 months, 3 to 6 months, that an organization will bring you back. Or even if they do, it's not in the same role or capacity. The role is different.
And therefore the payment is different.
The payment will be different.
So it's probably a project to complete something.
Or it could be that, yes, they recognize, oh, we need to train this person. So you come back and you kind of go through your duties and your tasks with that person, but it takes about 3 months, maximum 6 months for that new person to kind of get into the role. So once those things are completed, usually the organization wouldn't really, they will figure things out, filling that gap as you have left.
Or they make do.
Or they make do, because right now.
Yeah. So we're clear that there are challenges. There are challenges on the professional level. There are challenges in defining yourself and who you are. There are challenges in the family, your roles, your expectations, your social networks have to change. The family has to change. What help is there? What can people do to make this transition easier? Because we always tell our followers, stop, take a minute, check yourself. But are there tools? What can people do to help them decide which path they should take?
Well, we go through the stages. Your first stage is to accept that you are going to be moving into the next stage. And I think a lot of people tend to wait until the day that they are leaving
at the party,
or even no, they wait until 2 months post leaving to realize that they have this is really, wait, I'm really not going back to the organization or to this role. So I think
that's traumatic.
The biggest thing is to kind of accept that, okay, this is a new phase. And I think a lot of people delay that acceptance from fear, but this is an opportunity for a change, and it should be more of an exciting time.
Talk about the people with 10 or 5 years left.
10 to 5 years left, let's plan.
Because 10 to 5 years not think about it at all.
No, 10 to 5 years, yeah, let's plan. What do we need to do? If you want a car post-retirement, you may want to purchase that 2-3 years out from there. How much money do I have? Do I sell the current vehicle? Can I purchase a company vehicle? Those types of things. What is your pension plan? What is your medical plan? So all those things you need to know. What is your health situation?
50-year-old people don't think about those things.
What is your current health situation?
Because they're peaking.
And then what do I want to do? What do I like doing currently? So sometimes you want to keep stock of what do you like doing in your job. It may not be on your job description, but there are duties and things that you engage in or activities you engage in that you truly like that kind of kept you in the organization or doing that particular profession for a certain length of time. So all those things are things that you want to keep track of and so forth. Some persons can decide on going back to school or studying because what they want to transition into may require a certificate here or something there, or some up-to-date on the knowledge.
My neighbor has recently retired and she's registered in TTHTI to do bartending.
See?
I thought that was fantastic.
So there are things that you may want to, now that you have the funds to pay for those courses, or the company might pay for it, depending on where you're at, you want to get into those things so that when you do leave the organization, you're leaving with some of the tools, the equipment, the things that you need to make that transition to the next role that you want to, the next self that you want to be. Some people may start their business while they're working.
And I always say that's a fantastic way
so you
to
can do
it.
your job, your side job.
It's a side hustle.
Your side hustle while you're
working. It's a business.
And then it evolves a little bit more when you have the time for it to evolve. But what it allows you to do is work out some of the kinks and some of the issues that you may have in the business developing.
Or revisit hobbies.
Well, I recommend career-wise, and this is from all ages and ranges and stations, I tell them, what's your hobby? And your hobby can be your life earning activity. So whatever your hobbies may be, do not discard them as, oh, just a thing that I do. It can definitely be a money earning
activity. It could keep you from quarreling about the kind of help you're getting in the house.
All that. Keep you busy, keep your mind occupied, keep your mind fresh. So all those things are, I think, are positives that you can do in your life.
But are there things that people, if you've been working for 30 years, 40 years, people believe that what I did is what I know. And how are there tools to help people figure out themselves? Because I think that's a tall task.
Yes. So
asking me to remember who I was before I worked, that's taking me back to when I was 20.
So some of us have very clear definitions of who we are, and we are sticking to it no matter what. And some of us are going through the different stages. So there are tools, there are different questionnaires, and ways in which you can challenge or actually get you to think about yourself.
Yes.
What are your preferences? What are your interests? What are your likes? So there are tools that will give you a long list, and you can rate them on a 1 to 5, or you could select, or you could check boxes that will go through that process with you and give you a report that says, look, these are the things that that you truly like. Or things that you really wanted to try.
Because they do it on Facebook all the time.
Yes, so Facebook has all these all kind of versions, right?
This is what you
Google can do everything, right?
Intelligence.
So there's all types of assessments that exist. But beyond, so there are, so you can do very formal assessments with someone like myself, and we can sit and we can go through really formally how you proceed. And that's for persons who are really like, I just don't know. There are those. But
we do it for our children, to help them decide career choices and things like that. I mean, it's the same thing.
Exactly. There are those who kind of have an idea, but they're not quite too sure. There are many other persons in your life that can give you a temperature check. So you can chat with your spouse. You can chat with your religious leader,
anyone who knows
close
you.
friend, best friend, sister, brother, your mother. There are family members that will tell you, you know,
or the neighbor who's in next year for 40 years,
and they notice certain things. There are people, your mother probably go, you know, since you're small, you're trying to dance, and you are not push you in a certain direction. But if you want to take up
Mm-hmm.
dancing at this point, then I think that is really where your passion lies.
Or the people who doodle and create all
Doodle,
kinds of artistic things in the middle of the meeting.
all your artistic expressions, all versions of it,
Yes.
gardening, and there's so many.
And my favorite, cooking.
And you may be cooking for the family at one point, but now you can explore all the different types of cuisines
Yes.
and versions and
Yes.
styles of cooking, and now you can kind of merge it and venture it further out. So it becomes
Yes.
not just cooking for the family, but now you can have these nice little social events and have your
Yes.
connections plus.
I see one
coming
of
over.
our listeners, Stacy Charles. Hi, Stacy. And I remember we chatted. She's not 50 plus, nowhere near it, but certainly is thinking forward. And loves to travel. And Stacy's decided to blog about traveling and be a travel consultant. So
Why not?
I thought that was so cool. Nice to see you.
You can review hotels, you can review restaurants. If you like to eat, then that can be something that you get into. You can have a podcast, all the expertise that you have, an experience that you have developed over the years from work and interacting. You can have your own podcast, you can have your own.
I want you to
social
really
group.
speak about that, because I think people don't realize if you spent that, what we call the second act,
Mhm.
you spend a significant number of years doing something, whether it is raising the children, whether it is being the janitor of a school, whether it is being the person in the cafeteria, whether you were in staff, middle management, upper management, whether you are a garbage collector, whatever it is, people don't realize that in those jobs, in those positions, there are skills that belong to them and there are skills that belong to the organization. And when you leave with your skills. Is that a real challenge for people? Do they really feel when they leave the job, everything stays there?
I think what people don't recognize is what their value really was in terms of their contribution. And though some of your thoughts, your ideas was not necessarily right for the organization, does not mean they're not right.
Yes.
So even if you are the garbage collector, recycling, upcycling, and all of those things may not be the thing for the organization that you were with, but it is something that you can do well, and you understand and you observe that there is a need for these things. So no matter what your role may have been, you would have observed, you would have had ideas of how it could have been done better, more efficiently, differently, or spin off into something else.
Or what people always came to you for.
Exactly.
If something had to be, no, go to Nneka, she could do that. Yes.
And it could be things like giving advice. People may have been coming to you because you're the person they can just go, I'm here to just talk to you in the cafeteria. I could eat you for lunch, because you happen to be that person that gives that calming spirit or good advice or something like that.
And you can be a mentor. You can get into
all of the above.
Get into a school board, do all kinds of things.
So there are a lot of things that are skills that you have developed on the job that wasn't necessarily about the job.
Yes.
And those skills and coupled with what you've done in your workplace, all of those things can form part of your new, I wouldn't say new definition, your redefinition of yourself.
Yes, the new definition of you. Going into, because we always say that the third act is when we can be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It is when we can do things, make decisions that are about us and what we want. We can act in service of us. And I don't mean selfish here in terms of you bring harm to others, but you've brought, whether it's the organization, your kids, your family, to a point, and now you can use all that experience to really take yourself forward.
Correct.
So we have to really look at our 50-plus crew. And as we said, it's time to start honing those skills. Identify who you are.
What skills you have. So there are different tools as well to determine really what those skills are. Some people don't even recognize that their ability to communicate with others and so forth is a needed skill. So you can discover what those things are through different versions of assessments or conversation with others that will tell you, you were always really good at giving a presentation, or presenting ideas or breaking it down for people to understand. And so you can teach lessons, you can do many other things with that type of skill, or teach others how to present. I have a lot of times I interact with persons who are like, I am so scared to present. I don't know how to present. Sure. So you being somebody who been giving presentations all the time, can train others.
Well, Nneka, again, it has happened. It's 7 o'clock.
Wow, okay, that is the fastest. 30 seconds is more like...
And I know we've had so many people here. And the thing about it is that, listen, this next period is all about having a great time. After 50, you've got another, oh God, if you're going to 90, it's 40 years, 30 years to
my
be
grandmother's
here.
98, and she's still doing all that there is to
exactly.
So,
and it's that time when you can recreate yourself, reorganize yourself, and as you say, start with an assessment of self, whether it's done professionally, whether it's done with other people, and the world is open to you. So, Nneka, this was a ton of fun.
Great.
It was a ton of fun. I hope you enjoyed being here.
Yes.
And I know Jan has been chatting with you all out there.
Okay.
So we are, again, Jan is going to be back next week. But we want you all to start thinking about who you are, who you used to be. Talk with people who know you very well. And Connections 50 Plus is going to be there with you, helping you to figure out what's your next step. And we're going to make sure that you're ready. So, bye till next week. Bye-bye.